Right, so we have, we have William Russell. We're also finding out things about Mark Meadows. So I want to play this sound from George Conway on Meadows. Get your thoughts on the other side.
I also think that the last possibility to me has always been the most intriguing, which is are there people who are cooperating? We've seen some very strange quietness from, for example, Mark Meadows. I mean, I just have the feeling something's going on there. I mean, he's someone who ought to be every bit as exposed as Donald Trump, yet he's been so quiet, and it just seems like there's something up with him.
Joyce, I don't know if silence means guilt. I don't know if silence means he's trying to line up his life for a long time in jail in a jumpsuit. I don't know. But is there something to this? Is there something to the fact that one of the main conspirators, right, somebody who was intimately involved in the process, at least legally, of trying to overthrow the 2020 election, that he hasn't been on the talk circuit, that we haven't heard that much about it? We know he's testified, but other than that, he's been kind of quiet.
He's been awfully quiet, and I think George is an astute observer here. Look, Mark Meadows is someone who, in some ways, makes his living by promoting himself and his work, his book on television. It's surprising to have seen him go to radio silence. That's something that we often see with people who've struck a cooperation deal with the government. That's not the only conclusion that we could reach here. He could simply be trying to keep himself out of it with a low profile, knowing he does have considerable exposure. But the reality is that Mark Meadows was in the mix. He appeared to be the gatekeeper and the coordinator for much of the planning that went on in advance of January 6th. He would be a possible target, or at least a subject of the government's investigation. And if he has, in fact, agreed to cooperate with the government, he, too, would offer very high value. He's probably the most important cooperator that the government would be able to land because of his access, and not only his conversations with the former president, but his constant text messaging with all sorts of people, including a lot of the lawyers who've been identified as part of the fake slates of electors planning and the efforts to use the Justice Department to perpetuate the big lie and the notion that there was fraud in the election when there wasn't. So it's a very interesting absence from the public square with Mark Meadows.
It's interesting that we are living in a day and age where a president could be taken down by text messages and DMs. My distinguished panel is sticking around because there's still a lot to discuss about Trump's potentially looming indictment. The readout, Jason Johnson sitting in, continues after this.